You just gave a talk about something called blockchain, which is a mechanism or an algorithm that is being used, for example, when it comes to cryptocurrencies. So could you explain how it fits into the cryptocurrency context? What does it do there? Why is it necessary?
So the idea is not to trust a central authority. If you are able to trust me, and I'm a central authority, so it's very easy to have people who want to transact or pay each other, say, money, because I have a list of whoever my customers are, and when you say customer number 1 wants to pay, I don't know, 100 euros to customer number 27. So in my ledger, I take 100 euros out from the account of customer number 1, and I add 100 euro account to 27. And and anybody, when he wants to make a payment, I know what balance they have, so I know if I don't have the money, the payment is not made because I have. So as long as you trust me, not only you, but everybody, that's very simple. In cryptocurrency, the idea is to try not to trust anybody, and or at least or better said, to spread the trust across many entities, ideally everybody who is part of the system. Whether this can be realized or not is, of course, depends from technology to technology. So let's ignore the implementation and try at least to say, ideally, what do you want? You want that somehow the record of how much money each one of us owns is a public record maintained by all of us. And so we want to have every time that there is transactions, like payments, are organized in block. Say one block has 2,000 payments, typically is large enough. And then these blocks are kept by me, by you, and everybody has a copy of a block. So the idea is that you're going to, as we transact more and more, we have a first block of transaction, then a second, a third, and a fourth, and you leave this in storage. I have a copy of the entire database, and so you have a copy of the entire database in the traditional idea, right? And so, of course, I cannot tamper with changing my content because the database is secure in a sense that one change in one block causes changes in the next block and the one after that. So you can actually see if somebody has tampered with it. And the sequence of blocks are also organized in such a manner that nobody can, and be believed, switch the order of the blocks. And nobody can, and be believed, alter the content of a block. So it's a way to freeze at every point in time a database which keeps on going and going and going. And all the difficulty, because of the technology for securing the database and preventing the rearranging of a block or the tampering with the block content, that is very well understood and very basic. So the whole, if you want, the competitions of technology and the whole difficulty lies with choosing the next block of transactions. So how can you guarantee that that you can produce a block so that the content of every block is common knowledge in the system? Which block is going to be? Mine or yours or hers or his? So that is the whole point. So the whole technology fight is over who has the right to announce a block to the public.
And then how do you solve that puzzle?
Well, there are different ways to solve the puzzle. One, which is called proof of work, was the first one to be proposed. And that's the technology that underlies Bitcoin, which is still to this very day the most famous cryptocurrency. In other words, you're going to say at high level, you're going to do like this. Say, hey, you guys, everybody of you wants to propose a block, don't you? Okay, meaning the system, is going to generate a very hard riddle that is somehow uniquely tied to the block you're going to propose. So if I want to propose one block, say with 1,000 transactions in it, I have a unique riddle that I want to solve. if you want to propose a block, maybe as 1500 transactions, you have a unique riddle to you. The idea is that my riddle and your riddle, even though are different, are somehow of the same level of difficulty.
So we are competing in solving our riddle,
yes,
our personal riddle,
yes,
before everybody else.
Yes.
And if I do that and I win, then yes, I get to propose the next block.
Yes. However, sometimes, how do I solve this block is by a very expensive and random process. So I try. It's like, think about it like an equation. Mm-hmm. I have an equation that is uniquely tied to my block. I want to solve it, and I plug random values of random from the variables, and it says, is the equation solved? No. I plug different random values, and I say, is it solved? No. Plug different random values, and your equation and my equation have the same difficulty. So in some sense, we must, in expectation, use the same random number of plugging in values for the variables, the same number of trials to solve it. But, personally, my critique of the system, which is, hats off, is a good idea. It's a first idea. Nobody had proposed a system like this. You must recognize the brilliance of whoever proposes it. That said, I think we can and should do better. Why? Because, first of all, it is a very expensive process. So if I have not one computer, but 2 computers, 3 computers, 4 computers, I have a big edge over everybody else to be able to solve a riddle, because now I have a lot of equipment trying to plug in variables. So I need to have a lot of capital to invest to have a voice in the system. Right now, systems like this and de facto blocks can only be proposed by relatively few individuals, members of the system, and actually these individuals, to further simplify their operation, have consociated into pools of so-called miners. So now we have a few people who cooperate to solve these equations, and another pool of people who cooperate. And guess what? We are now at the point in which, for instance, a Bitcoin block proposing is concentrated in the hands of 3 pools. So a technology like this, does the opposite of what you want to do. You want to achieve decentralization, and you actually, without noticing or unwillingly, because of the way the system is designed, you have caused centralizations in very few hands. So the system is rather centralized rather than decentralized. The system is actually very expensive because, everybody, whoever wants to try to solve it. And, never mind the initial investment, but just the cost of electricity alone to run these farms of computers to try to solve these riddles now consumes more electricity than the country of Switzerland by good margins, over 20%. Right. And if more people join the race to try to solve a riddle, it's going to be even more expensive. Ultimately, who is going to pay for this cost? We, the users, because, right? So these people are fundamental to the riddle solvers are fundamental to the system to continue to operate.
So what would you propose to get around?
So there are, by the way, other proposals and that have different approaches called proof of stake. And proof of stake is a very general term that encompasses a bunch of different proposals. Among these choices is my type of proof of stake, but say some notion is very familiar to us all, right? So what you do, you elect some representatives proportionally to the money that you have in the system, and somehow a few representatives, and they decide what the block is on behalf of all of us, right? Say for a while, say for 1 month. Next month, a different 20 people. Well, perhaps it's more decentralized than putting all the power in one person, but to put the power in 20 people for a currency of the world looks very centralized to me. And another way is to put to have different people, different number of people even, say 20, 200, 2,000, as many as you want, who somehow pledge to put some money in the middle of a table where they cannot touch it. And whoever have voluntarily segregated, put aside some of their money, they are the one in charge to choose the next block. And their influence is proportional to the money that they put on the table. And this system is called the bonded proof of stake because their money is confiscated if they misbehave. And is not immune of criticism. And one criticism is the following. So if you ask, a typical person how much of his or her disposable income you can actually segregate, you won't be surprised that the answer is very little. So in a system like this, in principle, you may have big thieves with deep pockets who put a disproportionate amount of money in the middle of the table in order to control what the block is. And okay, you have the safeguard, but if they misbehave, they are going to somehow confiscate their money. And I must say, I don't believe that the practicality of this solution for a variety of reasons, because you always must make a cost-benefit analysis. And if I misbehave and I'm punished because my money is confiscated, if I put $1 million and I lose it, but I made $1 billion on the side, do I care? Well, my reputation is going to be deeply affected, but so what? So all I have to do to look good for a year or two until the right occasion arises, and then they confiscate my money. That's just the cost of doing business.
So is there a way that you think is the best way then?
That is the way that is proposed by Algorand, which is my system, and roughly the idea is that is a pure proof of stake, which is a bit different beast altogether. That means that you don't make a distinction between users who are willing to segregate some part of money. You look at all users. You look at all the money that all users have, not in a checking account versus a saving account versus invested in stock. You just compute all the money of all users. And you want to orchestrate the system so that if the majority of the money is in honest hands, then the system works and there is no need to punish anybody because you make it impossible for people to cheat. And of course, if you don't believe that the majority of the money of any system is in honest hands, you better should not enter such a system. Right? So Algorand is a project based on pure proof of stake, but so far is aspirational. To make it actually work, you actually need some sophisticated computer science and mathematics to implement it so that you have a system that actually works according to this to these specifications. And so we build Algorand is built from scratch so as to satisfy this specification. And to me, again, it's a question of technology. So when people like or hate cryptocurrencies, people should realize, whether they love them or hate them, that cryptocurrencies are all about technology. And some sense, it is technology that will make them work or not work. And
mathematics, right?
And mathematics. The beauty of this is that is some mathematics. And so I believe that is a technology that is going to allow humanity to transact in this other decentralized way. And sometimes, however, initially, as in everything else, the technology it started being very naive and become more and more sophisticated. And if you look at the way we went about for thousands and thousands of years, we either walked or went on horseback. Then we had some puffing machines, which, you risk your life if you got in. Then we finally have locomotives, which were good enough, right? Then we had planes. So I believe that in blockchains and cryptocurrency, that's what's happening. So we started with one simple technology that vaguely address the problem of decentralization, but end up for poor design in being centralized, and you are going to see better and better technologies so that we are going to actually realize the dreams that people have about cryptocurrencies.